Welcome, everybody, to another edition of From the Bottom Up. Yes, we haven't done one of these episodes in quite some time, but we decided to bring it back with a little twist. This time I'm actually going to always have a guest on when we do it, so that way you get two perspectives of, which songs on the album and where they fall under your personal favorites. If you remember, I did do Joe Perry Project, Once a Rocker, Always a Rocker with Cowboy Mock Bell, who actually sang on the album. So that was definitely a treat. And this time around, I got Mr. Chris Kiebzak with me as we get ready to do Welcome to My Nightmare.
How's everybody
Welcome.
doing? Glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
All right, so we're fresh off the Alice Cooper Best Song Off Each Album, which you can catch on our channel anytime you want. It's right there in front of your eyes. Just look it up and check it out. You're definitely going to have to spend a little time to watch it because it was a long one. But this one here, what we're going to do today is we're just going to break down what we feel is our least favorite track till we build it up to our favorite on this album. And take her away. Tell us about Welcome to My Nightmare.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be a part of this one. This is an album that I lived with for a very long time, about a year when I was very young, 7, 8 years old. It had to be because it was before I first seen him in '97. And it was a cassette my dad bought me. He bought me a cassette from Alice and a cassette from Kiss every single year. And this was one that lived in my cassette player in 1996 and 7 for a very long time and constantly was throughout my whole life. Played in one of my favorite records. Just really, it obviously shows now the focus is completely on Alice and not any one person. This album, being the first of his solo career, obviously had the whole point Ezrin wanted to do was have multiple musicians on the record, different instruments, different people playing. He didn't want it to sound like it was any four or five or six people. A lot of personnel on this record. And it's not like he had huge guests from the past. It was a lot of new people working on it, like Wagner. Obviously, Ezrin is where a lot of these ideas came from with the sounds and sights of the record. What's interesting about this record also is it pretty much started as a movie idea. I don't, the exact details is very lengthy. So to make a long story short, they were proposed to do a movie. They wrote Welcome to My Nightmare around this movie idea. The movie ended up getting dropped in some manner, and they went into the studio and recorded this album for real, and pretty much did the movie themselves in a long form concert video after. So a lot going on in this record. The charts is weird. Did you get any actual numbers for the charts? Because when I was looking for them, it didn't really jump out on me on exactly where it was. It looks like though that the peak position was at 19 um in the US. Uh in that, yeah, it was 19. It was also in the top 40, the top 75, and the top 100 for a while. And it looks like it was from March 15th, 75 to April 26th, 75, 7 weeks it had its chart run. Um, so a lot, again, I mean, out of all the records that preceded this one, you sort of see the bigger picture and the more horror-esque and show tune stuff that he's going to go into and sort of paint a picture. Um,
Okay.
so
Yeah,
when
when
did
you
you
were
get
you're
introduced? Yeah.
saying the chart, so 19, you were right on the chart there, except that was the UK position, which
Oh,
he
okay.
was very
Okay.
popular in the UK as well.
Right.
The US version hit number five. Um, the weird thing is, I don't know if they ever go back and if he's ever gone back and recertified, but so far to date, this album's it's only gone platinum, which I find very, very hard to believe. You'd figure by now, this being perhaps one of his top three well-known albums of all time, you would think that he would have sold at least triple platinum, at least on this one alone, I would have to say.
Right.
So I'm thinking they just haven't recertified because I hear nowadays you got to have money to get the recertification. process going. They just don't automatically do it. You got to pay for it, which is kind
Right.
of lame. But that's what I hear how it runs nowadays.
They did release three singles off the record. Department of Youth, which looks like it may have only been released in the UK. But Only Women Bleed and obviously Welcome to My Nightmare. All three of those were released as singles.
Yeah, yep, definitely. And so the ones that you Only Women Bleed reached number 12. Welcome to My Nightmare reached 45, and Department of Youth reached 67. And in Canada, actually, Only Women Bleed reached number one, oddly enough. Then that's definitely a surprise because no other countries did it even make the top 10. So it's kind of
Right.
weird. And Department of Youth hit number seven in Australia, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you got to think, I mean, being already, we're talking 4 or 5 years into his career, having 4 or 5 records preceding this. I mean, to come out in your solo career with a very ballsy album, if you ask me, something that's all over the board. And again, it's very hard to believe that the album only released or only reached platinum. So yeah, I mean, hopefully they will recertify and be able to figure that out. But how about we get into it and go into our choices?
Okay, very good. So there's 11 tracks in all. So we're going to start off with our least favorite and build it up to our favorite. So what do you got for number 11 there?
All right, so when listening to this album, for some reason, two of the 11 songs always jumped out at me as almost interlude-like. I don't know if that has to do with the live DVD that pretty much accompanied it, where they acted as interludes. Alice wasn't always there and present. But to me, there's two songs on the album that aren't necessarily songs in my opinion, but after listening to them again for this and not just looking at them as ways to separate the show a little bit when it's in a live setting. Um, Years ago is that song to me that just sort of didn't really stand out too much, but as a kid, it creeped the hell out of me. Just that little intro with the sounds and the noises. But yeah, but the weakest song on my album, definitely in my opinion, is Years Ago.
All right, so I got a way different song here, and I will say this that I don't hate this song, and I will say it's very catchy. And if it was on another Cooper album, it very well could be a lot higher. This album is just so good, something has to be last, unfortunately, when you're doing a ranking of this style. So I
Right.
got Some Folks.
Oh, wow. As dead last, huh?
Yep, dead last. It's just not as good as anything else on the album. I think everything else definitely beats it by a mile. I didn't even have to think about it. I mean, as soon as I I gave everything the obligatory listen, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Because some of these songs, I really don't know this album. I'll be the first to admit it, inside out, like you do. Obviously, you know this album so well, but I'm
Right.
one of these guys who I never really got into Alice Cooper. I mean, obviously, I know the hits and I like the hits. Don't get me wrong, but when it came to I never had any of his albums. The first one I ended up getting was Trash, and that was like 4 years ago during the middle of the pandemic. So
Well,
for some reason,
I do remember after seeing him with you open for the Heaven and Hell and going on after Queensryche that he really did blow your mind. And you definitely, I feel, gained interest there a little bit moving forward.
oh yeah, that was a great show.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, what I love about doing this, especially with someone who admittedly like hasn't lived with the album for years. I mean, it's so cool to have that different and that contrast with me and you because I love hearing your opinions. It's like, wow, some folks being last, that's crazy. But I understand if you put the album on and listen to it for the first time today, like, it's like, oh, maybe I think that's why we differed so much in some of our other shows like Dokken and stuff, where we're going through the records because you get that difference of someone who lived with those albums for 20 years and someone who
Yeah.
just listened, may have just heard some of those songs for the first time. So
Oh yeah.
very interesting. But all right, so that brings us to song number 10. Um, and Yeah, again, like I said about years ago, this next one sort of had this same feeling for me. However, again, upon listening to it, you realize within a minute there is an actual song there. And I forgot how good it was, and I sort of wish he would bring this back, and that's The Awakening. That's my pick for number 10. Nice, creepy little, again, interlude type song, but I think I'd really enjoy seeing it live if he was to go back and dig up some songs that he hasn't played in a very long time. So that brings it to you.
All right, I got a surprise because I didn't expect. I thought this song would be in the top five on this album, and after
Oh,
listening to everything thoroughly and making my choices, I got Cold Ethel.
whoa, that's
Yeah,
crazy.
and like I
Yeah,
said, I like the song a lot,
yeah,
but I really like all these other ones just a little bit more.
yeah. No, I get it. Um, yeah, that's well, and it's interesting because when I was listening to this, it's like some songs, and I've said this on other shows, like some songs I can do without ever hearing again live. Right? Like Cold
Hmm.
Ethel's, I've seen live almost probably 18 out of the 20 something shows that I've seen them do at minimum. And yeah, some you think you get bored of it, but then when you listen to them together, it's fun to put them in order and see where they actually stand when you're not thinking about, oh, I'm going to another show and I know I'm going to hear that instead of hearing one I haven't heard in a while. So, but yeah, awesome. So cool. But it's interesting to hear you say that you were even shocked yourself and you thought it was going to be a top fiver. So. But yeah, all right. So that brings us to our ninth pick on the record. And this is gonna shock the hell out of you, but it is the ballad, and obviously the biggest song from the record. It is "Only Women Bleed." Again, as a kid, ballads didn't strike me. Now, like I said, if I had a list of my top five favorite ballads, I swear they'd all be Alice Cooper probably because his are so unique. I feel "Only Women Bleed," and this is going to be a hot take, is the least original ballad that Alice has. And I think that's why it ranks so low from this record for me. But my dad loved the song, and when I said before that my dad described Alice to me before I ever seen Alice, it was thanks to a Blockbuster and the Trashes video on how I seen Alice for the first time. But pre-internet, I mean, I heard about him, and Only Woman Bleed was the big thing about it. So I have respect for the song. He played it live the last time I seen him at last October, and it regrew my interest on the song because it was the first time he played the whole thing in one time. But yeah, shockingly to you, I'm sure, but Only Woman Bleed is my ninth pick.
All right, so moving on to number nine for me, and I've got a song that I don't know. I never really too much got into it too much this song, but so I didn't know where it would end up when I started ranking the songs on the album. But
Right.
I've got sadly enough, Department of Youth, number nine.
You're
Yes.
killing me.
Yeah, I know. I don't know
Wow.
why. I don't
Now,
know. I
were
just
you familiar? The song had some traction in the States in the 70s. Were you familiar with the song based on like radio? Or he
nope.
did do a video. I don't know if MTV,
They
well,
never played it on the radio here, and that's probably part of the problem. I just never heard it enough. But
yeah,
I find that this song. See, I don't know. There's the other songs that I ranked above it have a little uniqueness to them.
right.
This song is more of a straightforward rocker, but I'm not really a big fan on the chorus, as I thought I would have been. I mean, I've heard of it. Obviously, I have like the box set, The Life and Crimes of Alice Cooper, so that's how I first heard it, on there. And yeah, it's one of those that always catches your attention. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, now similar to Cold Ethel, if this one was on any other album, it probably would be in my top three. You know what I'm saying? It's just
I
I don't
get
know.
it.
I
I
really
get it.
like
Yeah.
these next ones, and I'll go into more detail about those as we get to them. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. No, that's definitely a hot take and an interesting pick, but yeah, it's awesome. All right, so that moves me to my eighth pick, which is going to be your last pick, which was Some Folks. I
Mhm.
feel this song. and similar to you, when I was getting ready to do this, I thought some folks would definitely be in the top five for sure. But I think that's because it's such a unique song that it always lives in the top of my head. Plus, it's one he's never played, and I would be shocked if he somehow was able to pull it off live now. Um, but yeah, I do love that song. But it doesn't, as far as all the other ones, similar to what you said, it just doesn't stack up to them. Live with the 10 skeletons that were dancing around with them and stuff, very cool visuals to see, makes it a top viewing of that show. But as far as the record goes, yeah, some folks, doesn't necessarily hit the mark, especially when most of the record is scary and ominous. But I still dig the song and would love to see it live. So yeah, that's my eighth pick.
All right, I've got one we haven't mentioned yet, and I really love the bass on this song. I'm talking the Black Widow.
Yeah.
Solid song. Kind of a little bit reminds you of the bass playing of Geezer Butler in a way.
Oh
The
yeah, it's dark.
dark, yeah, I love the dark playing. Definitely fits the song. And yeah, the Black Widow. It's just the more I hear it, the more I really like it because this obviously was a song that never really got no airplay as well. So I love it digging deeper into these albums when you know a lot of the songs on the album, but there's some that you never really got to listen to or
Yeah.
learn of because whether they didn't get airplay, whatever the case may be, never played them in concert, whatever.
Right.
So when you actually hear something that you don't hear regularly and it sticks out that good for you, I really love that because that's how I love discovering new music or music that I wasn't aware of.
Right.
And the Black Widow, man, if we ever whenever we get to the it's gonna be interesting when we get to the ranking of the albums for sure.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to it again. It's going to be 14 hours, but we'll get there. All right, so the my next pick again is an extremely creepy song and one that sort of scared me as a kid. It's one that's reoccurringly can come up through his set lists on and off. I've seen it a few times, but that would be Steven. Great story. It's got that heaviness towards the end, but very creepy. You don't really know where it's going to go. Um, and yeah, I mean, as a kid, like that, when that song would come up on the record, I'd be like, oh man, it would be like you'd sort of get chills, like when you're watching a horror movie. And I think it's a highlight of the record for sure. I think it sounds great live. It's been done on a couple live records. But yeah, that's my choice, Steven.
Okay, very good. All right, so my choice is none other than Devil's Food.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that those that and Black Widow are kind of in the same. It's interesting how they're like grouped together and everything
It's like
on
a
the album.
pair. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're different from each
Yeah.
other. But they both have that dark tone to them, and that's what I really love. That sound. Definitely kind of a this was what year was this that this one came out?
75.
Okay, so by that point, Sabbath was already out making their dark music, as a metal band. But obviously, Alice, and the one nice thing about him is the way he goes outside the boundaries and uses all these different genres and different things. And you can definitely see a lot of that on this album because of the difference in the styles of each song, really. But I think
Right.
Devil's Food and Black Widow are very similar in that method a little bit. And that's why I kind of got them together because it was really hard to decipher which one was actually better than the other. Uh,
Yeah, I agree with that.
so that was interesting. But for at least today, Devil's Food wins out.
Cool. All right. Well, that brings me to my next pick, which is one that you already talked about in the Black Widow. Now I actually thought this one would fall back for me in the bottom couple, actually. But re-listening, I remember how much I love this song, why I love this song. I think part of the reason why I miscategorized it at first was because at his shows for years, like there'd be a section of like 14 minutes where there's some solos, and then Alice will leave the stage, sort of take a break, and it'll be like this thing where the band's playing and stuff. And the Black Widow was always part of that, but it wasn't, Alice wasn't there to sing it, so it was just a band thing, and it really got old. He started playing it again about 10 years ago in full, and that sort of brought back my love for it. But listening to it on record, what a powerful song. And a little note is this is how Alice met his wife, Cheryl, who he's still with today, who's still in his shows today. She was a dancer on this tour in 1975 that was hired, and they fell in love. They've been together ever since, all through his addiction issues and going to rehabs and outpatients and everything. So, if it wasn't for this tour and record, they may never have met. So that's a little interesting thing too. And she was the Black Widow spider during this song live. So, love this song. And yeah, I'm glad to see it's not in my top five, but it's very, very close, right on the outskirts. So
Okay, very good. All right, so I'm looking for my number six. We are going with the Spooky Steven.
yeah.
So this is definitely a very unique song, and I like the different textures of it. The way Alice sings on it, and there's a lot of kind of mood swings during the song, and it's one of the longest songs on the album. And just pulling that up here, I wanted to look at something real quick about this here. There we go. Yeah, I mean for 1975, that there at obviously at that point there weren't a lot of concept albums out, so that's one thing that
Right.
makes this album kind of unique. It all fits in into the same. It's kind of like the Operation Mindcrime of its time. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well,
Mindcrime.
I mean, like I said, it was originally the idea came from writing a movie that Alice was going to star
Yep,
in about his nightmare. So it's extreme concept. And yeah, you're right. I mean, what other actual concept records are really out before this? I mean, I can't, besides, I don't know about maybe any Floyd record, but because
The
that's
Who.
the Who. Okay, yeah, true. And Tommy. Yeah,
Yep. But
yeah.
that was a little different type of music. Cooper was more, a little bit more heavier than the Who. The Who were more, plus this is American. I mean, how many Americans made a lot of concept albums early on? It was mostly the experimental people from the UK and things like that.
Well, I think this is where Alice seen that his whole career, especially after losing the original band, that his whole career can be a concept now because The Who created Tommy as a character. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? Iron Maiden created Eddie. Like Alice Cooper is the character. And as you see from this point on, and what we talked about last week, and what we're going to talk about when we rank the records, is that everything is going to be a story from this point on, and everything he's taking eras and what's popular and what used to be popular and just making these records that all meld together. And this one's probably the most interesting, being the first of that era of what he's going to do from 75 on, but also just the concept of the nightmare and how long that has been able to sell, and him playing a lot of the songs from these records constantly. So
All right, so that's what I have as Steven, which is the longest song on the album at 5:52 is what I was looking up here. What do you got let's go on to our next track. I think so we're going down to the nitty-gritty here because
yeah.
what are we going on number five here, huh?
Five. Yep. So this is starts with the top five. This one might shock you a little, but it's the it I knew it wasn't going to be in the top three because the top three are so strong for me, and some probably in my top five Alice songs are these three. But yeah, this one is the title track, "Welcome to My Nightmare," which again,
Hmm.
like to me sometimes feels a little old, even though he doesn't play it a lot. And but Welcome to My Nightmare obviously is the whole center of this whole record, and it introduces us to what is what this whole record's about. So it's obviously the first song I heard on the album, and I fell in love with it immediately. But when I'm ranking it against this, it has to fall somewhere, and I am glad it hit the top five. Very interesting song, great way to open a show, great way for the middle point of the show for the second act. Um, and obviously, it introduces a lot of characters that are going to be streamlined through his career on albums like this and Nightmare 2 and Along Came a Spider. So very interesting track and pivotal track for Alice in his career for sure.
Okay, yeah, that was good. I've got from my number five years ago,
Okay,
which
wow.
is
Hi.
which is the part that goes in that leads into Steven.
Yeah.
But I like how it. I thought it stood alone pretty good. And obviously, they start talking about Steven towards the end of it and everything.
Yeah.
But I just love the. It's not a long song, but it's definitely it caught my attention. That's probably why it landed where it landed, just because it's very catchy, and I just happen to really appreciate it. I never heard this one much, when I was originally doing all these rankings on this album in particular. So I think another thing I like, the way I like doing these from the bottom ups is, so say if it's an album you heard of, or but you might not be all too familiar with. The one nice thing is how by by really listening to it and ranking each individual song the way we are, you really start to, number one, learn the album more if you don't know it.
Right.
Number two, you appreciate it more if it's a damn good album like this is. And you get a lot of joy out of it because now you know the album so much better, when you're breaking it all down like the way that we are.
Well, look, and on the other side of that, this is an album that used to get so much play from me that now it doesn't get monthly play for me or every 6 month, but it might be once a year where I'm listening to this record or really focusing on these songs, except for my top two, which I listen to my top three that I listen to all the time. So it's interesting for me too to sit down with an album that has always been in my life and to revisit. And I think a lot of these songs ended up in places I really didn't think they were gonna pass the top three. So yeah, it's definitely awesome doing these shows, and I appreciate what we're doing here. So, and I hope everyone else does too. So yeah, so that brings me to song number four, which is going to be what I feel is the heaviest song on the album, or heaviest riff on the album at least. Short song. It's very annoying to listen to, be on, especially on streaming platforms, which I normally don't anyways. But when I was doing this, I was, and I'm listening on the streaming platform and Spotify. And at the end of the song is when it plays the beginning of Black Widow. But that's Devil's Food. Again, heaviest riff on the record, very heavy song. And that's the one that really clicked with me the most when I heard it. One of the first riffs I taught myself by ear how to play on guitar when I was very young. So just a great record or a great song, and love that riff. Wish it was played more live in a full setting instead of just being with the instrumental only with Black Widow. But yeah, love the song. I feel it was pretty high up for you too, because you already mentioned it. But yeah, gotta go with Devil's Food for pick number four.
All right. So number four for me is going to be The Awakening,
Oh wow.
which is near the tail end of the album there. Yeah, this song is definitely unique. I really like the way that it flows. And I was it's one of those songs that I wasn't too familiar with, and I, like you mentioned, how it kind of flowed into the next song. I didn't really notice that as much as I did, obviously years ago into Steven. You can definitely see how that one did. But
Right.
this one, I don't know. When I think of The Awakening, I was thinking first thing that crosses my mind, because of how familiar I am with that name as a song title, was with Jafria. Jafria had a song called The Awakening on their
Oh,
debut album, and it was more like a just an instrumental, keyboard
okay.
instrumental type situation. So with Craig Goldie blaring away on guitar.
Gotcha.
Um, but so I wasn't all too familiar with this one. And then when I heard it, I said, "Wow, this is pretty cool." And And it just stood out to me a little bit more than the last four picks that I had. And that's why I got it where I got it here at number four.
Awesome. It's funny to see that the two songs that were my least two were pretty high up on your list. So that's why doing these things are so interesting. All right, so that's going to take us to the top three. This is one that you had very low on your list, surprisingly for me, but that's the very entertaining Cold Ethel, which again is a song that played constantly. I thought it was going to be lower in my list, but I love this song. I love when he brings it up live. Obviously, it's a shocking song, especially when you're a kid and you realize what it's about. The whole necrophilia thing, especially in the 70s, was just sort of taboo. And, listening to that in the 90s as a young kid was even more taboo. And it still holds today to just be a very entertaining, fun song, especially live with all the theatrics going on in there with him throwing the doll around and dancing with it live. And, um, love this song. I love the riff, the drumming, the intro, is just sort of opens up that world that it's going to be creepy but fun at the same time. So, my number three is one that is played a lot, but also not taken for granted by me, and that's Cold Ethel.
All right, very good. So my number three, I'm going with a good old trusty Alice Cooper, Dick Wagner written tune, which kicks the album off, and it's the title track.
There you go.
Welcome to my nightmare.
I knew
Yeah,
it'd be high for you.
yep, this one is definitely one of those songs that that this is one I've always heard in the past. So this is one I was definitely familiar with. And what else can be said? Title track, one of Alice's best albums, and I just love this song. Definitely it ranks in one of his as one of his best songs in his whole catalog. You said he doesn't play this one all that often live anymore these days?
Um, I know, and if he does, it's normally shortened, but he has. Like, I've probably seen it about 5 times in the last 20 years, 15 years, but it's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not always played. Sometimes it's played shortened in the middle. Sometimes it's like opened with for a couple minutes or a minute or two. But other than that, no, not really, which is interesting because I feel it's, at least at one point, it was one of his biggest songs. But you don't hear it on night. I do remember hearing it on 97 Rock when they did their A to Z or whatever, which I
Yeah.
was like, oh, they're
Yeah.
playing Welcome to My Nightmare, but it's not in regular rotation, and I don't think
No.
it has been in many, many, many years. But it was a really big song from him. A lot of people know it. It gets a huge pop live, so it's interesting that it's sort of
Hmm.
fallen by the wayside. But I think that's why some of these songs work for him because he'll give him a rest for a little bit and then bring it back, and then it becomes a staple for a few years. So this is sort of like that in that situation.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, that's taking us down to top two.
All right, number two. So this is a song written by Kim Fowley, believe it or not, and Mark Anthony from the band Hollywood Stars, if anyone's familiar with them back in the day. But yeah, so Escape is my choice, a nice 3 minute song. Um, for some reason, just the melody, um, the vibe of this song always hit me. I think the melodicness is a big factor in that. It was a song my grandmother enjoyed a lot. She spent a lot of time enjoying Alice with me when I was a kid. Probably not because she wanted to, but because she feels or because she wanted to, not because she loved Alice Cooper. But we definitely enjoyed songs together. This was one of them. A very pivotal point in his live show for this tour where he was using the magic screen to go into the image and come out back on stage. Wasn't played for many, many, many years until a few years ago. I was lucky enough to see it twice. Just a great, great song, great guitar playing. Kim Fowley being added. Obviously, everyone knows him for the Runaways fame and other bands of getting them together and making them go. So, it was interesting to find out he wrote on this song. I didn't know that until a couple of years ago, but it makes sense. Just a song about escaping the nightmare. It's a pivotal point of the record, right at the end of the record, and depth by far in my top two. So that's my number two choice.
All right, my number two is Escape as well.
Really? Oh wow, the only one that we got the same.
Yep, so there we have it, Escape. Yeah, this song is definitely a standout. It's amazing how he hasn't played this up until, the last few years, it looked like from what I was seeing here, like you mentioned here.
Yeah.
This is definitely one of those songs that, you would have thought he would have used it a lot during concert just because it's such a great song and it usually fits, it fits his stage show so well.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I am very, very, very shocked that that is your in your top two for sure. I didn't realize that, but yeah, I mean it's honestly probably in my top three Alice songs of all time. I love this song. Yeah, but it's interesting to hear you say that. You obviously never seen it live, but yeah, it was definitely the highlight of the two shows that I seen it at for sure.
All right, what do you got for number one?
All right, so number one is one that fell really low on your list, and that's Department of Youth. Um, Honestly, Escape was almost number one for me. But Department of Youth was a huge song for me when I first heard that record. That was the one I was constantly rewinding and fast forwarding, or fast forwarding to get to, rewinding to listen to again. And just a great song. The riff is so heavy, but the song is so almost light and airy and like it seems but so I like the character that's built here. It's not exactly a part of the nightmare. It's almost how he is coming out of it. And I just love the whole vibe of the song. He plays this one sporadically through his career. I haven't seen it live in a very long time. I wish it was. But Department of Youth is just one of those songs with that the underlying bass tones and everything going on, the vocal, all the different vocal harmonies that he's doing. So I love that song. So my number one on the record and one of my favorite Alice songs of all time, Department of Youth.
All right. Well, it's if you watched our show on the best song off of each album, there's no doubt you should have caught our number ones back then. But mine, without a doubt, here on this album, of course, is Only Women Bleed.
I knew, and that one is not a shocking surprise because I know you love that song.
And it's not because it's a ballad or anything like that. I could care less about that. I just love
No, I know, I
I love
know.
his delivery of the song.
Yeah,
And there's actually Lita Ford did a great cover of it.
yeah, she did.
And but nobody does it like Alice. As try as she might, Alice still rules the roost here.
And you're right. His vocals on that is are brilliant, and he still it still sounds great when he sings it live now too.
Yeah, so it was a no-brainer. I didn't even have to think about my favorite song off of this album just because we just did that ranking, and I knew there was never going to be anything to top it, at least at this point. Now, will Escape do it maybe in 20 years for me? Who knows?
Right.
But right now, we are in 2026, and Only Women Bleed is what my choice is.
Awesome.
So that concludes this ranking. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have you read off your ranking from 11 on down to 1,
All
and
right.
then I'll do the same. So
All
go
right.
ahead and do yours.
All right. So at 11, I have Years Ago, then The Awakening at 10, and 9, Only Woman Bleed. Some folks coming in at 8, Steven at 7, Black Widow at 6, Nightmare at 5, Devil's Food at 4, Cold Ethel at 3, Escape at 2, and then Department of Youth, which we just talked about, at 1.
All right. So what I had here, I got number 11, I had Some Folks. Number 10, I had Cold Ethel. Number 9, Department of Youth. Number 8, Black Widow. 7, Devil's Food. Number 6, Steven. Number 5, Years Ago. 4, we have The Awakening. Number 3, Welcome to My Nightmare, the title track. Number 2, Escape. And number 1, Only Women Bleed. And there you have it for our ranking of Welcome to My Nightmare from the bottom up. Stay tuned for more episodes in this format. We'll be definitely doing some more very shortly here. And definitely don't forget to look back on our older episodes where you got a lot of albums, really good albums that I did. I did most of the first round. Now we're just going to kind of focus in as I'll have a guest on with me each time when we do it, but me and Chris are going to pretty much do a lot of them together here because of our different contrasts, the style, because he
Yeah.
came in a lot later on a lot of these older bands. And in this case, I came in late on Alice. You were ahead of me on that curve, really.
Well, I think that's what makes it interesting, especially from my point of view, for me, is because uh, when you're, I've seen it with bands like, let's say, a band like Guar that I love, that's released albums, so many. If I didn't get in, if I got into Guar 5 years ago, the albums that I'm not a huge fan of from 10 years ago, I might look at differently. You know what I mean? Coming in after a lot of these albums for me as a kid, coming in the 90s, so all the 70s and 80s albums were done and over with. It wasn't like I was looking forward to a new, you know what I mean? It's not like I was looking forward to Welcome to My Nightmare as a new record. Like I got to look at it in contrast of the whole catalog, you know? So, I love that I wasn't, trying to be nitpicky or being, hey, no, that's not a real Alice album, because when you get into it, I think that's why the last couple albums don't shine so high for me, besides the very last one with the original band, because I was expecting something. But
Hmm.
when you listen to everything as a whole from before, you're not expecting anything. So it's
Right.
interesting to play it out that way.
All right, very good. All right, well, stay tuned for more episodes, like I said, and we'll see you guys down the road.
Thanks, guys.